Welcome to Tech to Tech presented by KYZEN, where we will explore common cleaning questions and answers. Let's get started. I would like to introduce KYZEN's own Phil Tomasello.
Thanks for tuning in for another Tech to Tech. Happy to be here today to talk about combination chemistries. This is part 2 of our discussion on combination chemistries. I'm sure you tuned in a couple weeks ago to see my colleague Will Sweet, first initial installment of this. But today we're going to talk about combination chemistries as it's related to aluminum substrates. That's something that I guess people take for granted or perhaps don't consider the cleaning of aluminum. But first, a refresher. Combination chemistry, as you probably recall, is essentially a two-in-one product. It really provides both cleaning efficacy and corrosion protection all in one. And we commonly refer to corrosion protection as RP or CP, it's abbreviated. And so throughout, we'll be using some of that terminology for you to be aware of. Combination chemistry has some great benefits. It's essentially allowing you to simplify your process. You're going to have consistent, simple measuring process for concentration without the concern of having drag out from a wash process, chemistry dragging out into a rinse process with a separate RP material. So that's great. It eliminates a lot of that duplicate process of purchasing two different chemistries, eliminates two different types of titration, measuring of concentration that goes on in production facilities. So also important to note that in combination chemistries that KYZEN offers, it's provided as a dry RP, which means that it's essentially protecting, it's forming a molecular bond to the surface of your substrate. It's not an oily or paraffinic. Combination chemistry. Great illustration here, right? Here's a basic diagram of a process where you have a wash, rinse, and dry tank. And these areas, wash, rinse, dry, simplified, but carryover or drag out, which we've discussed, is not a challenge for combination chemistry. But out is shown here with some of these green illustrations. If you had two separate chemistries, you have an alkaline cleaner, for example, in your tank number 1, that's being pulled into the second tank, into your rinse tank. So the chemistry that's coming over from that is diluting the RP, the separate RP that most people would be using. It's going to reduce efficacy. Essentially, it's mixing a cocktail, and that cocktail is ever changing. So it's a great way to look at this, and I think a simple way to understand how combination chemistry works and the value it brings. Talking about aluminum, we know it's a soft metal, so it's important that we look at parts washing machines, and we look at the specific energy used in the cleaning process. Spray and air and immersion are two processes that KYZEN believes perform the best in cleaning aluminum. Ultrasonics can certainly be used in the aqueous process. Just keep in mind that aluminum's soft, so it could damage the substrate. Unlike steel, aluminum typically works best if you keep those temperatures below 140 degrees. And if people are washing above 140 degrees Fahrenheit, you can actually see yellowing of that aluminum. So important considerations when you're looking to clean aluminum. Interestingly, when folks look at aluminum as a substrate, oxidation and corrosion are two things that most people don't really consider. And certainly they will see a white or gray surface. It's significantly different than what you're going to see, what you'd think you'd see traditionally as rust on a ferrous metal, right? So as opposed to black, brown, or red, usually associated with other substrates, on aluminum, it's really a gray or a white appearance. And galvanic corrosion is part of that. You can see here with the pitting. Typically this occurs when you have aluminum that comes into contact with dissimilar metals, copper, steel, two examples. But if there's electrically conducted liquid involved, and typically that could be moisture, that could be humidity, there's an electrochemical reaction. So that will cause corrosion of aluminum. Of course, atmospheric corrosion occurs just in general, right? Oxygen in the air. Um, Important to note, I think, also that high bases or acids tend to break down the surface, the aluminum oxide surface layer, significantly more than something in a neutral range. Taking a look at managing oxidation and corrosion of aluminum, a couple simple steps. Uh, Simple to explain, important to look at. It does take some time. Reducing the humidity and moisture in the workplace, controlling the environment is key. In addition to that, you really want to apply that dry corrosion preventative, right? The CP material, just making sure that it's rather neutral in pH. And third, take a look at how you're packaging those parts, right? They placed in moisture absorbing bags. If there's specific paper to prevent corrosion from happening after you clean them, that's great. And certainly prior to the paint anodization process, it's very important. Keeping in mind that you really want those parts at ambient temperature before you put them in bags, because a hot part in a fairly cool warehouse, if you package it right away, you're going to be increasing the moisture content in that bag. Couple real good considerations and some key questions to ask yourself when you're going through this process. Are there other materials that are going to be cleaned in your wash process in addition to that aluminum substrate? Um, what series of aluminum is going to be cleaned? That's important to know. Are there existing machines that you're going to be using? Is there a machine in place you're going to be using, or are you looking to select a specific machine for this cleaning process? Uh, what's the required level of oxidation protection? You're looking at 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. What's the cleanliness standard? How are you measuring that? Is it a visual cleanliness standard? Something else? So keep these things in mind as you're working through your process and you're looking into cleaning of aluminum. And if you do have other materials, right? Aluminum, if you've got cast steel, if you've got brass, copper, other things being washed, not to worry. There are combination chemistries that will work for multi metals in the same wash process. It's important that you work through that data first, and you can get a specific targeted combination chemistry that will apply to your specific needs with regard to soils and substrates and process with machinery. Taking a look uh, at controlling the process, optimizing your process. The four key variables we speak about frequently are time, energy, solvency, and temperature. You want to look at your exposure time, the impingement, the dwell time. You want to look at flow, PSI, the mechanical energy being used in your process of cleaning. Also, the concentration, the specific chemistry, and the concentration of that chemistry that you're going to be using in context with the temperature. Again, these are the four key variables that everybody needs to keep in mind. And when you have process challenges, cleaning challenges with your parts, typically it's one of these four variables that has changed somehow. When we evaluate corrosion protection, that's done in a standard humidity chamber. The one pictured here is a good example. Time, the percentage of humidity, temperature, all key settings in the process of establishing how you can have a part that will remain without significant uh, corrosion over a period of time. And that usually is 90% relative humidity at 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And that kind of helps us with that guide. And typically 1 day under those conditions in a humidity chamber equals 9 days in the real world. I think a key feature that maybe some people aren't aware of is that KYZEN's combination chemistries are oil splitting chemistries. So since they're not emulsifying, you can see some great examples in these photos right here. The oil splitting really allows for easier and more efficient removal from the bath. So if you have an oil separator or a coalescer, which of course you're going to be using, and it runs overnight, things cool down in the bath, you're going to be pulling a lot of those oils out. It's going to improve the bath life significantly of your chemistry in your wash and rinse tanks for cleaning and providing RP. So got to confirm the process parameters, right? If you really want to make sure you've got the best process for cleaning your aluminum parts and you've got that CP efficacy that you need, you have to work with your trusted chemistry professionals, your machine professionals, and make sure you discuss all those details, all those variables and expectations. And once you've established those parameters for cleaning, the expectations, variables, any options, you can work through that to start lab testing. And test trials simply are going to help mimic or provide guidelines, some parameters, help you evaluate the cleaning and corrosion protection you're looking to achieve in the production process. And we can do that in-house. We do it frequently, and we confirm guidelines with lab reports, and that will help you set up for a successful way to have a balanced cleaning process. In conclusion, combination chemistry will absolutely help simplify your process in cleaning. You're going to be using one product in the wash and one in the rinse. You have a unified measuring process for the concentration. It's going to reduce all the complexity from using two separate chemistries, one for cleaning, one for RP. You don't have to worry about different titration methods. You don't have to purchase two different chemistries, right? It's going to reduce that complexity. It's going to eliminate all the dilution drag out from tank 1 into tank 2. So you're not going to have to worry about that if you're using multi-metals, some ferrous metals. Certainly that chemistry here, combination chemistry, is going to avoid any flash corrosion or challenges you might have between that process and the end stage. And it's going to improve the parts cleaning efficiency. Again, because it's oil splitting, very helpful for bath life. Certainly this is going to remove burn on carbon, soils, and provide long-term RP protection. So our combination chemistries really are providing very strong results and certainly could be of great value to you when you're looking to make some changes to your process parameters. Finally, some frequently asked questions that we get. And one, can I use combination chemistry on multiple metals? And the answer is yes. KYZEN is a true manufacturer of aqueous and solvent chemistries, and our combination chemistries for aqueous use are targeted to specific soils, to specific substrates and applications in various machines. So once you understand what those metals are, what those soils are, and what machine and process you're going to be using, we can make sure that we fit you with the best chemistry to get the outcomes you need. Another question, why is using combo chemistry important? Well, it simplifies your process. It reduces redundancy. It will increase bath life, save a lot of time and energy of your team trying to try to understand what your RP tank is holding from a concentration standpoint, because it would be constantly being diluted by tank number 1. So combo chemistry, you can avoid all that. People ask why they haven't seen many combination chemistries on the market. And the answer candidly is that there aren't a lot of chemistry manufacturers that are producing combination chemistries. And KYZEN's proud to be one of those manufacturers. How can you determine if a combination chemistry is going to meet your needs? Have a conversation. You're going to call your chemistry professional and have a conversation talking about the soils, the substrates, the machinery, talk about cleanliness expectations. You're going to talk about the level of RP that would be needed. And typically after a 20-minute conversation, we can establish some guidelines that'll help you. Hopefully this was a benefit to all watching today. Again, thank you for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you again on the next installment of Tech to Tech.
Thanks, Phil. Thank you all for watching this Tech to Tech session. If you would like to discuss this topic further or have any questions not answered in the session, please contact your local KYZEN regional manager or send an email to tech@kyzen.com, and we will have someone follow up with you as soon as possible. And if you like this video, be sure to follow us on our social media platforms for more expert cleaning content.